The day everything almost fell apart began with a trembling hand around a pack of discounted chicken and a heart weighed down by fear. In the harsh glow of supermarket lights, surrounded by strangers who had no idea how close he was to losing everything, a single father stood frozen when the most powerful woman he had ever known leaned close and whispered words that felt both terrifying and impossible. That moment would change his life forever, but not before testing every ounce of his dignity, courage, and love for his child. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and miracles that arrive when hope is almost gone, take a second right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful true-to-life stories like this. He had never imagined that a simple grocery run after work could drag him into a storm he never asked for. His name was Daniel, a quiet warehouse accountant who lived his life between long shifts, unpaid overtime, and rushing home to his tiny apartment where his 5-year-old daughter waited with coloring books and endless questions. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a short illness, leaving him with grief that never quite faded and responsibilities that never paused. Every month was a battle of bills, school fees, rent, and groceries calculated down to the last coin. He wore exhaustion like a second skin, yet he carried on because someone small depended on him. That evening, he stood in the frozen foods aisle studying price tags like a desperate math exam, choosing what he could afford rather than what he wanted. He didn't see her at first. He never expected to. She was the CEO of the company that owned not only the warehouse he worked in but dozens of branches across the city. Elegant, powerful, surrounded by an invisible wall of authority, she moved through the store unnoticed by most, yet unmistakable to those who knew her face from company announcements and business magazines. Her name was Evelyn Hart. She stopped when she saw him, not as a boss spotting an employee, but as a woman confronted with something raw and human. Daniel lifted a pack of chicken and quietly slipped it back after seeing the price. Then he reached for the discount bin, where damaged labels hid bruised meat behind yellow stickers. It was not the poverty that caught her attention, but the deep care in his eyes as he checked every expiration date, calculating meals in his head for a child who wasn't there. When he sat briefly on the edge of his shopping cart, rubbing his tired temples as if the weight of the world pressed down on him, something in her shifted. Their eyes met near the checkout lane when his card was declined the first time. The second time it barely went through. The silence was louder than any sound in the store. She watched him flush with quiet embarrassment, nodding politely at the cashier while pretending nothing was wrong. That was when she stepped forward, closer than her position ever allowed, and whispered the words that would echo in his mind for weeks to come. "Be my boyfriend, or lose your job." Not a public threat. Not a cruel command. A low, trembling whisper filled with conflict she did not try to hide. He turned to look at her fully now, confusion clashing with fear, his mind racing faster than his heart. He knew she held his career in her hands. He also knew he had nothing left to lose except his dignity and the future of his child. The truth beneath her shocking request unraveled slowly in his stunned silence. She had been cornered by a ruthless board of directors determined to undermine her leadership. They questioned her authority, dissected her personal life, and quietly hinted that her image as a single, emotionally distant woman weakened investor confidence. A public relationship, they believed, would soften her power and make her controllable. But she refused to let them choose for her. When she saw Daniel in the store, humble, genuine, worn down by life yet unbroken, she saw a solution she hadn't planned for but desperately needed. She offered the fake relationship as a contract, promising protection and a promotion in exchange for public appearances. To him, however, it felt like standing at the edge of a cliff with his daughter's future behind him and an uncertain fall ahead. For nights he didn't sleep. The idea of pretending to love someone for survival felt wrong to every value he had left. Yet the alternative was unemployment in a world that offered him no safety net. He thought of his daughter's small hands clutching his fingers as they crossed busy streets, of the way she hid her fears behind brave smiles. In the end, he agreed, not out of ambition, but necessity. They crafted a story for the public. A hardworking single father rescued by fate. A powerful CEO softened by unexpected love. The media embraced it with hunger. Headlines were written with romance and speculation. Appearances followed. He wore borrowed suits that never quite fit. She wore rehearsed warmth behind eyes trained to hide weakness. Yet something strange began to happen beneath the performance. In stolen glances and unplanned silences, their carefully built walls began to crack. He never asked for luxury, but it came anyway. A better salary. Health insurance. Stability. For the first time since his wife's death, he bought groceries without counting every coin. Yet guilt followed every paycheck. He felt like a man living someone else's life while his own waited on standby. Meanwhile, she watched him from behind her polished composure as he spoke gently to his daughter during staged company events, as he knelt to her eye level before every goodbye, promising he would return. The board saw a publicity asset. The world saw a love story. But Evelyn saw something she had not felt in years. Respect without fear. Care without calculation. And slowly, terrifyingly, admiration turned into affection neither of them had planned. The truth was never meant to last. The board eventually demanded deeper commitments. Engagement rumors. Shared residences. Lines that blurred reality and fiction. The pressure mounted until one night it all fractured. Daniel refused to move into a life that erased his daughter's home and replaced it with convenience. His courage surprised even himself. He told her he would walk away from everything rather than betray the little world he had built for his child. He expected anger. Retaliation. Instead, he saw tears in her eyes. Real tears. Not the polished kind she gave to cameras. In that moment, the contract collapsed, and two wounded people stood facing each other without masks for the first time. What followed was not a dramatic kiss under spotlights or a perfect redemption arc. It was something quieter and harder. She fought the board openly, exposing their manipulation. It cost her investors, endorsements, and comfort, but she kept her position on her terms. He resigned, prepared to return to uncertainty with his head held high. Then, in a move no one expected, she offered him a new role, not as a symbol, but as a respected professional, chosen for his integrity rather than his image. This time, there was no contract. No threats. Only choice. Before the ending of this story, take a moment and comment below what you think should have happened to Daniel when he first heard that impossible whisper. Your voice matters here. Months passed. The headlines faded. The public spectacle moved on. But something unexpected remained. On quiet evenings, after board meetings and bedtime stories, two lives once stitched together by fear began to intertwine by trust. There were no grand promises. Only shared meals. Slow laughter. Awkward honesty. And the soft rebuilding of something neither had the strength to believe in at first. By the time winter returned, Daniel stood once more in a grocery store aisle, this time without shame in his pockets. His daughter laughed nearby, pushing a small cart with exaggerated seriousness. At the end of the aisle, Evelyn watched them with a warmth no camera could capture. No contracts bound them now. No whispers carried threats. Only the fragile, stubborn hope of two broken people choosing to face life together, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that dignity can survive even the darkest bargains and that love sometimes grows from the most unexpected soil, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories like this. Your support keeps these messages alive. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is refuse to lose themselves, even when the world offers everything in exchange.